Hey folks, Nick here from Another BookTube channel, and today I'll be reviewing The Princess Bride by William Goldman. I think you have to look pretty far to find somebody who's not familiar with the Princess Bride movie at this stage. It is a classic for a reason. It's a wonderful movie. Of everyone I've ever met in my life, I don't know that I've ever met someone who had a really negative thing to say about that movie. Like, you have to be some sort of cynic to really not find anything redeeming or fun about The Princess Bride. Um, and yet, I had never read the book. I had toyed with reading it for a long time, and I always just thought, oh, it's not going to. There's no way it could possibly live up to the expectations of the movie. And I was kind of right. I didn't love this book, which is really surprising because I was loving it for maybe the first half of it, and then I don't know, my attitude towards it just kind of soured. So I'll tell you a little bit about that. But first, I'll talk about the plot. Because things are a little bit different here, metatextually, than they are from the movie. Everybody knows in the movie, it's Peter Falk is the grandpa, I think he's the grandpa, reading the story of the Princess Bride to little Fred Savage, who's sick in bed. That's not quite the framing device here. Instead, the metatext of this is William Goldman, the novelist, is himself a character in this book. And the prologue, the whole lead-in, is him talking about how when he was a boy, his father read to him this book called The Princess Bride by S. Morgenstern. Not a real book. But William Goldman fleshes out this autobiographical part of the story by talking about his real life. Like other books that he's written and screenplays, like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. He talks about his first novel that he wrote that nobody read or liked. And so he sprinkles in the fact with the fiction. I kind of hope that his family life that he describes is kind of fictional, because he doesn't say he's really mean to his son and his wife. So I'm hoping that that's part of the fiction. Otherwise, it'd be kind of weird. But anyway, the premise is that the Princess Bride by S. Morgenstern has been out of print for a while. His own son, William Goldman's son, is turning 10. That's the age where he first had the book read to him. So he gets a copy for his son for his birthday. And the son reads it on his own and doesn't like it. He can't get past chapter 2. And so William Goldman picks the book up himself to read it for the first time, because he only ever had the book read to him by his father. And when he reads it, he discovers that the book is a lot longer and more dense than what his father read him. His father was abridging the story as he told it, to skip to only the good parts, basically, the stuff that would entertain a 10-year-old. And so the idea of this is that William Goldman is presenting to us his abridged version of The Princess Bride, which he calls only the good parts. And that is a very neat idea, and I really enjoy that whole prologue, that whole explanation. I think it's really sweet. And then it goes into the actual story of The Princess Bride, which is Buttercup is this beautiful young woman who ends up getting engaged to an evil prince. Her true love, Wesley, was allegedly killed many years ago by the dread pirate Roberts on his journey to America, where he was hoping to become rich so that he could come home and marry Buttercup. And it's the high adventure tale of the rescue of Buttercup. There's sword fights, there's giants, there's poison, and there's all these rodents of unusual size. It's a lot of fun. So that stuff all still works. What made this book so difficult to really attach to, though, for me, was the fact that the movie is just so very present in my mind. The movie is just one of those things that every moment of it, every character, every delivery of a line of dialogue is so ingrained in my brain and in just the pop culture ether that the slightest variation from what you come to expect from the movie, it ends up being a little disappointing. And that's not the book's fault, because obviously the book was written first, but I always try to separate book from movie when I do when I read a book that was adapted, and I found it nearly impossible at this time, because when I'm reading Inigo Montoya's dialogue, I cannot not picture Mandy Patinkin with the curly hair and the mustache and his bad Spanish accent. Like, it's impossible. I can't not picture Andre the Giant as Fezzik. And like the way that they deliver lines, the all the stuff that I enjoyed in here, at a certain point I thought to myself, am I only enjoying this because I'm just replaying the movie in my head? Like, what if I didn't have the movie and I was just reading these words and doing it on my own? Would I find it as fun or as funny? Like, I'm putting the accents on the lines where the actors put them, and I'm not having any room to interpret it myself because it's too stuck in here. And it was just a strange reading experience. And it's also, there's parts where the movie itself abridges this abridgment, which is, kind of funny that this is supposed to be the good parts, and then the movie kind of breaks it down even further to only the best parts. So like the movie is the superior abridgment because you're only getting the best. And just some of the dialogue is also cleaned up in the movie version as well. So like there's this little dialogue moment in the movie where Inigo wakes up Wesley, who's been mostly dead for a while. And Wesley doesn't know where he is, and he's asking, what's going on. And Inigo says to him, "Let me explain." He pauses and he goes, "No, there's too much. Let me sum up." And like that's how he says it. "Let me sum up." And it's so funny. It's such a quirky little line. And in the book, that line is instead he says, "Let me tell you what's been going on." "No, there's too much. It would take too long. Let me distill it for you." And that's so different than, "No, there's too much. Let me sum up," which is so like punchy and short and snappy and perfect. And this is just like, that's not the line. That's not the line that I wanted. So it's that kind of stuff that I'm talking about, where I could not separate the movie from this. And the parts that skew very close to the movie were very fun. I read the first half of this like taking it in like oxygen, just like chugging through it. But then something weird happened. Like the last 100 pages of this book have nothing to do. It's an epilogue that is an edition, actually. So if I had read the original edition of this as it was published, I would probably say like this book is really good. But this is the 30th anniversary edition, so there's an epilogue called Buttercup's Baby, and the idea of that part of the book is that William Goldman is coming at the story and starting the abridgment of the sequel to The Princess Bride by S. Morgenstern, which is called Buttercup's Baby. And not just that, he's talking about like the legal battles he had with the Morgenstern estate, how the fight just to get the ability to adapt or abridge the second book. They want Stephen King to do it because he's more popular, and so that this epilogue is just like the first chapter of this sequel that doesn't exist, and it's just not very interesting. The portion, the meta portion where he is trying to get the rights to it and the ability to do so is a little fun, but then the actual story of Buttercup's Baby, like the first chapter that we get, I don't know. It's a first chapter to a book that's never going to get written, and it doesn't really do anything for me. it was honestly pretty boring, and I skimmed through a lot of it. Like I was just like, I don't like this doesn't work. I think I see why some people might enjoy this, but I would have preferred to read like the original edition of this that just ends when the Princess Bride ends. I think that would have been a lot more solid. But as the book stands, as it is now, in 450 pages, 30th anniversary edition, kind of a disappointing ending. And honestly, I think this is overall a situation where the movie is better than the book because the movie is the distillation truly of all the good parts. And you cannot beat Carrie Elwes and Christopher Guest and just all of the perfect just like casting, like freaking Billy Crystal as Miracle Max. Like you're not going to do better in your own head, and that's again, it's barely a fault of the book. I feel bad even grading this because all I'm doing is comparing it to the movie, but I can't not. But I will say, I'll say my arbitrary and subjective grade for The Princess Bride by William Goldman, I'm going to say 6 out of 10. If it was the original edition, maybe it would be as high as an 8 out of 10. But as it stands, this one, that ending really bothered me. The last 100 pages, I just could have done completely without. So there you go. That's my thoughts. Let me know what your thoughts are on The Princess Bride in the comments below. Thank you very much for spending some time with me today. But now it's time to get back to reading.